As a small business owner who's recently moved to the Netherlands, there are a few things I've really come to love about living and working here. Some of them are practical, some of them are kind of random, but they all work together and they make living life here pretty good. If you're new here, hi, my name's Han. I'm a small business owner. I just moved to the Netherlands after living in the US for the past 12 years, and I'm a hand embroidery artist. So I thought I would finish these shoes and chat with you a little bit today about life in the Netherlands as a small business owner. So I'm gonna sound like I'm beating a dead horse with this one because I have mentioned work-life balance about 15 times in my past few YouTube videos I've made about the Netherlands, but I think I keep bringing it up because it is such a stark difference from what I've experienced in the US. If my friends here in the Netherlands finish work at 5, they are done at 5. They're not responding to emails and calls from their boss, from their managers. They're done. They're done with work until they start again the next day. In the US, I had several jobs ranging from retail to a bartender to a full-time nanny. And if any of my bosses or managers from any of those jobs reached out to me outside of work hours, I was always at their beck and call. Even when I was making like $8 an hour, it was expected of me, and I think it was more so the culture, like the work culture in the US, that made me feel like it was expected for me to just always be available to my higher ups, if that makes sense. I mentioned to some of the new friends that I'm making here in the Netherlands that, you know, if a boss had called me outside of my working hours, I definitely would have picked up, and they all said, yeah, nay, or something equally as Dutch. And the last thing I'll say about the work-life balance for at least a couple of videos, I promise, is that it's really made me slow down, which is something that I really needed. I'm a bit of a workaholic, and honestly, I don't think it's good for my mental health or just health in general that I'm used to always be thinking about work and just wanting to work on something new. Cogs were always turning in my head. It's definitely much easier to just like slow down a bit and focus more on hobbies and like recreational pursuits rather than I need to make money, I need to make money, I need to make money, because it definitely does get tiring sometimes. If you're American and you are thinking about moving to the Netherlands, the DAFT Visa is one of the easiest ways to get into Europe right now. And when I say get into Europe, I mean like live in Europe, not just visit. So the DAFT Visa, the DAFT Visa, stands for the Dutch-American Friendship Treaty, affectionately known as the DAFT Visa by those of us who are here on it. It's a visa specifically designed for entrepreneurs. So you do have to either have an existing business that you're bringing over with you to the Netherlands, or you have to have plans to open a new business. And the visa is specifically designed for business owners or people who are starting up a new business in the Netherlands. So it was incredibly easy for us to get things up and running. We had like 2 appointments in Amsterdam, and then we were up and running. We could get our online store set up again, and we could start taking orders roughly like 3 to 4 weeks after we arrived, which was a much faster timeline than what we were expecting. I personally have gone through a student visa and a green card visa application in the US, and it was nowhere near as easy as it's been to move here to the Netherlands on the DAFT visa. Again, I think I mentioned it in a previous video, but my husband is actually the DAFT visa holder, but since we both own and run our business, it worked out for us that way since I'm not an American citizen. And Brexit kind of messed with any plans that we might have had to come here using my British passport, which is just great. So one of the main requirements for the DAFT visa is that you need a €4,500 deposit into a business bank account that is associated with the business that you're setting up. And that is basically the main cost of the visa. You could pay extra fees if you are using an immigration lawyer to help you with the entire process. But that €4,500 is basically the main chunk of what the visa will cost. There's no like crazy application fees. I think it's maybe like €100 or something for the application itself, like to put it in and get that processed. But there's no crazy underlying costs like there are with other visas. UK, I'm looking at you. So I am a British citizen, and my husband and I were considering moving to England with our small business. But a quick Google search will show you just how expensive a spousal visa in the UK is. And I love England. It's where I was raised. I have really fond memories of the British countryside where I grew up. However, I think it's really heinous, unacceptable, all of the bad words. I think it's really terrible that I, as a British citizen, can't easily bring my spouse over to the UK to live with me without paying thousands of pounds a year just to keep a valid spousal visa. A lot of the charges that go into the spousal visa in the UK include an NHS surcharge, which is the health surcharge, since we have free healthcare in the UK, which I completely support. I think that's great. But there are also a bunch of other fees that you have to keep paying on a yearly basis. And when then we weighed up the pros and cons of living in the Netherlands versus living in the UK. The Netherlands kind of won every single time, and it's super close to the UK for me to be able to visit my family and stuff, so it was kind of a no-brainer, and I'm honestly so happy that we're here. Okay, so actually one of my most favorite things about living here is that I have access to a lot of really great embroidery supplies locally. When we were living in the US, we used to rely a lot on Amazon for a lot of our small business needs, like poly mailers for shipping things, shipping printer labels, basically just like regular small business stuff that we would go through a lot of. We would order sometimes from Amazon once or twice even a day. And then for my embroidery supplies, I would have to order from like specialized craft shops online a lot of the time, especially since I use a lot of high quality thread and specialized embroidery supplies. In this country, there seems to be a lot more smaller, like mom and pop shops, if that makes sense. Like a 10-minute bike ride away from my house, which is in the suburbs of a larger city, there's like a small shopping mall, and it's full of smaller shops and kind of like specialized niche shops. And there's a craft store there where I can get all of my embroidery supplies. So whenever I need anything, I hop on my bike. It's a lovely little 10-minute cycle. I grab all of the supplies that I need. I say hello to the shop owner, who's quickly becoming a friend of mine, and then I cycle home. It's a benefit for me and my health, and it's a benefit for the environment. A lot of the times in the US, when you order something from Amazon, it's being shipped from a few states away. So it either needs to be flown to you on a plane or driven to you in a semi-truck, both of which cost a lot of fuel and ultimately cost the planet a lot. I also love the access that I have to the rest of Europe. As I mentioned, I can go home to England very easily. I can take a train, I can take a plane, and that also kind of works out for the rest of Europe as well, which is great because my social media platforms are growing a lot right now, and I'm getting invited to a lot of events, which in turn is kind of great for my small business because I get to create content. You know, it's all a wonderful circle of work. It all it all comes around. So being able to easily travel to things and have access to a bunch of different countries is fantastic. I didn't travel a whole lot when I lived in the US. I have been to quite a lot of states. When we were living there, we didn't really have a lot of time for travel, and if I ever wanted to go to events and stuff, they were usually held in LA or New York, which were both kind of far away on a plane, and I definitely wouldn't have taken a train or driven there. It would have been couple of days for sure. It's also really amazing to know, as somebody who loves art and history, that I can go to a bunch of museums in a few different countries that are only just a couple of hours away from me. I definitely have to take advantage of that. I actually have some tickets that I got gifted a few weeks ago for an exhibit in Amsterdam, which I'm really excited to attend. I guess this point kind of ties into the work-life balance point I made at the beginning of this video, but there's like a general feeling of a slower pace of life here. It's like a calm rhythm of living that I've really started to appreciate as somebody who was work back in the US. Super unhealthy, wouldn't recommend. Not every day has to be your most productive day, and honestly, I'm living for the slightly gloomier days. Again, I was raised in England, so a little bit of rain doesn't scare me, and when it's a little bit gloomy and cloudy, maybe windy outside, I'm automatically kind of starting to go, okay, time to be a little bit slower today, time to be a bit more intentional. I don't have to absolutely kill myself to get a bunch of content produced. It's kind of dark anyway. And I'm actually finding that having slower days starts to make me feel way more productive and creative on days where I do sit down and I'm like, okay, I'm going to embroider 2 pairs of shoes today. I'm going to develop some new designs. It makes me feel like I might never be burnt out again. Wow, that would be really nice. Okay, this last point is kind of goofy and random, but when I was doing research on moving to the Netherlands, obviously a lot of statistics and stuff pop up, and I've always known that Dutch people were known as like the tallest people in the world, but I didn't really realize how much it would quote unquote affect my daily life. When I go out in public, I go into a store or something, I'm almost never the tallest woman in there, which was always the case in the US. I'm 6 foot tall, and in the US, when I would go to the grocery store, I would almost be expecting comments from people. People are also very friendly in general in the US, so it wouldn't be like irritating or anything, but it would usually be like the same comments of, how's the weather up there? Do you play basketball? And the answer to that is no, I don't play basketball. I'm just quite tall. But I always found that kind of funny. Here in the Netherlands, it's not uncommon for me to see women who are 6'4", 6'5", just walking around. No one's saying anything to them. It's really nice. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but as somebody who grew up as like the tall girl at school, this is kind of a welcome change. Okay, so kind of perfect timing. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I just finished these shoes just as I finished all of my talking points for this video. Here are the shoes I finished today during our little yap session about life in the Netherlands as a small business owner. I think they're super cute, but what do you think? Running a small business in a new country definitely is not always easy, but living here has definitely made me love what I do even more. If you have any questions or comments for me, I would love to hear them down in the comment section of this video. And if you enjoyed this video, maybe leave me a like. I think it does something with the algorithm gods here on YouTube. If you enjoy small business, Netherlands, embroidery related content, you will love it here on my channel. So consider subscribing and hitting the notification button so you never miss one of my uploads. Thank you so much for watching this video, especially if you've gotten to the end. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye! Doei!